Welcome to the Deep Dive, the place where we take the complexity of modern life, stack up the research, and distill it down to the pure insights you need.
And today, we are really wading into it. We're looking at a philosophical crisis that isn't just in a book on a shelf. It's unfolding in real time, on our screens, in our homes, even in our mirrors.
Exactly, and it's an existential reckoning, really. And the pace of technological change is it's the accelerator. We're looking at a radical proposition today, something that honestly feels ripped from science fiction, but is fundamentally about our present condition.
It all comes down to one question, doesn't it?
It does. What if your online identity is already more real than your physical self?
And when you first hear that, it sounds like an exaggeration. But the more you look at the evidence, the more you realize it might not be.
That statement really captures the core tension driving this entire deep dive. Our sources today are, well, they're a provocative blend of high-level postmodern theory, cutting-edge cognitive psychology, and media analysis.
And they all point toward a single and, I think, unavoidable conclusion. That advanced digital technologies, we're talking AI, VR, AR, mixed reality, they aren't just tools anymore. They're accelerating the emergence of what philosophers call hyperreality.
Hyperreality, a state where we're not just consuming copies of things, we're actively choosing the copy over the original.
And that's our mission today. It's crucial. We need to ground ourselves in the foundational work of the philosopher Jean Baudrillard to understand exactly how the simulation replaced reality. It didn't happen overnight.
Right, there was a process. And then, once we map that out, we have to analyze the profound psychological and sociological toll this immersion is taking.
Everything from the collapse of the boundary between the digital and the real world to a phenomenon that doctors are now documenting and giving a name to, filtered dysmorphia.
And the high stake here is the drama itself. I mean, we are tracking the human drive toward this artificial perfection, the lure of the virtual pleasure paradise.
And the consequence of that is the neglect of the messy, genuine, complex world that's actually around us.
So if we prioritize the instant gratification, the idealized image of the digital world, what happens to the real one?
The authentic aspects of embodied reality, they become distorted. They get fragmented. And ultimately, they're just undervalued. The sources are pretty clear in their warning that the ultimate high stake is the fragmentation of society and a profound collective erosion of our ability to tell what's real from what's simulated.
And that, I think we can agree, is a very dangerous place to live.
Incredibly so.
Okay, so let's start with the intellectual architect of this crisis, Jean Baudrillard. To understand the collapse, we first have to establish the core binary that drives his entire philosophy.
Physical reality versus hyperreality.
Let's define those terms clearly. What did he mean by physical reality?
The distinction is fundamental. We start with physical reality, which he saw as the original, the referent. This is the tangible, unmediated world we perceive with our senses, the world that exists independently of our signs and symbols for it.
So the tree in the forest, not the picture of the tree, not the word tree, the actual thing.
Precisely. And hyperreality, conversely, is the simulation, the representation, the sign that has, through this process of layering and repetition, completely replaced that original referent.
So if reality is the territory, hyperreality is the map that decided it was tired of being carried and simply consumed the land it was supposed to represent.
That is a perfect analogy, and central to that consumption is the idea of the simulacrum.
What exactly is a simulacrum in this modern digital context?
Yeah.
It's a word we hear a lot, but I'm not sure everyone fully gets it.
Well, at their core, simulacra are representations that have become completely disconnected from any original or real referent. They no longer reflect reality, they don't even imitate it. In a way, they precede it.
Precede it? How?
Instead of pointing to something real in the physical world, that tree, they point only to other signs. Think of a highly polished digital image, or a line of computer code, or an AI-generated scene. They're referencing other digital constructs, not a physical object.
Signs reflecting other signs. It creates this closed-loop system of self-reference. It sounds abstract, but it's crucial to understanding our current environment. The source provided a very specific quote that I think summarizes this endgame.
Which one was that?
Pure simulacrum, where the representation has no relation to any reality whatsoever. Here, signs merely reflect other signs.
And any claim to reality on the part of images is only of the order of other such claims. Yes, it's a hall of mirrors with nothing original left to reflect.
So that's the destination, the fourth and final stage. But Baudrillard laid out a progression, right? The procession of simulacra. He detailed how the image moves from being a humble mirror to becoming, well, a totalitarian replacement.
Exactly. It's a four-stage journey that, when you look at it, perfectly maps the evolution of media, especially digital media.
Okay, let's slow down and really walk through these 4 stages, because I think this progression is the mechanism by which our world went from being real to, well, hyper-real. Let's start at the beginning. Stage 1.
Stage 1 is the simplest, the faithful copy. The image is a clear reflection of a basic reality. Think of an old, unedited photograph of a physical house. It's a good sign. It accurately reflects the real house. It holds true to the original.
So it's a reflection, like a map that actually shows you the roads.
Exactly. But then we get to stage 2. This is where the relationship starts to become manipulative. This is where media and technology start to interfere.
Right, to distort things.
Precisely. Stage 2 is the perversion of reality. Here, the representation masks and perverts a basic reality. Let's take that photograph of the house. Now, you use it in a real estate advertisement.
You Photoshop the grass to be greener?
You digitally remove the ugly power lines next to it. You use specific lighting to hide the cracks in the foundation. It pretends to reflect reality, but it's actively hiding the underlying flawed truth.
We see this everywhere. Propaganda, highly curated, celebrity media, influencer posts.
It's all stage 2. It's a distortion, but, and this is key, there is still an original house somewhere that you can go and check. The reference still exists, even if it's being hidden.
Right. But now we enter the truly digital and postmodern age with stages 3 and 4. And this is where the original starts to vanish entirely.
It does. Stage 3 masks the absence of reality. This is a copy pretending to be a faithful copy, but there is no original left to check it against.
Give us an example of that.
Think of a computer-generated image of a beautiful house, one that was created entirely by an architectural rendering program for a competition. It is designed to look real, to suggest a physical original exists somewhere, but it's a total fiction.
The reference has vanished.
Completely. But the image remains, and it pretends to be grounded in substance. It's a copy with no original.
In the final stage, the pure simulacrum. This is where we live now, right? This is our world.
This is increasingly our world. The pure simulacrum has, as the definition stated, no relation to any reality whatsoever. It doesn't pretend to be a copy of a real thing. It points only to the sign itself, to the system of signs.
Okay, so let's use that house example one last time. How does that AI-generated house become a stage 4 simulacrum?
Imagine taking that AI-generated image of a house, which never existed, and selling it as an NFT, a non-fungible token. The value of that NFT is completely disconnected from any physical, tangible reference, like shelter or land.
So what is its value based on?
Its value is determined purely by other digital signs, blockchain transactions, market hype, social media chatter, and the code itself. Our postmodern society is characterized by these latter stages.
So the house is no longer real, and the image of the house is now referring only to a financial system, not to an actual shelter. Wow. That progression leads us directly to the definition of hyperreality itself. What happens to us when the simulation completely replaces authentic reality?
The outcome is that we are constantly surrounded by the signs and symbols of reality rather than reality itself. This is the state where, as the source puts it, we live in a world that is more real than real, a hyperreal world.
That phrase, more real than real, is it's haunting. What does it actually mean? It means the representation holds more immediate emotional and social significance than the actual thing it was supposed to represent.
Precisely. If we look at mass media, the media representation of a protest or a political event or even a military conflict becomes the primary reality for the majority of people who experience it through a screen.
Right, and Baudrillard himself famously challenged the nature of the Gulf War. He suggested that for the viewing public, the reality of the war was presented almost entirely in terms of mediated representations.
Things like live video feeds, expert analysis on cable news, strategic maps with swooping arrows.
Now, that's a controversial take. But his point was philosophical, wasn't it? He wasn't saying people weren't dying. He was questioning whether the war, as a media spectacle, truly took place in an unmediated sense for the public watching at home.
Exactly. He argued that the spectacle overshadowed the event. The mediated signs of the war, the green-tinted night vision footage, the footage of so-called clean smart bombs became more impactful, more accessible, and ultimately more real to the audience than the messy, tangible, horrifying destruction on the ground.
And this hyper-reality isn't just a passive thing we observe.
No, it's active. Baudrillard called the force that creates and enforces this hyperreality the evil demon of images.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting because technology has taken this abstract philosophical idea, this procession of simulacra, and it's turned it into an engineering problem, a problem that is being solved daily. We're accelerating this shift at an incredible rate.
We are. The convergence of AI, VR, AR, and mixed reality, or MR technologies, has a profound impact because they enhance the immersion and interactivity of virtual environments to an unprecedented degree.
So what's the fundamental effect of that enhancement?
Fundamentally, they dissolve the psychological barrier we once had between the digital world and the physical world.
We used to rely on a perspective that I think was called digital dualism, right?
Yeah.
The idea that the online world was this separate, secondary, and distinctly left real space. You'd go online.
Exactly. You'd log on and log off. There was a clear distinction. But now that barrier is collapsing entirely.
And our sources define this phenomenon pretty clearly.
They call it digital dualism transcendence. The virtual world is no longer merely a reflection or a secondary space. It becomes an integral and, in many ways, a functionally indistinguishable part of our reality.
So experiences you have in the virtual world, a relationship, a loss, a victory, they're considered as real as those in the physical world.
Yes, because they carry real-world consequences and real emotional weight. The question shifts from, is this virtual, to, does this affect me? And if the answer is yes, then the dualism has been transcended. We are now living in a truly hybrid reality.
Let's look at the specific technologies making this transcendence possible, starting with augmented reality, or AR.
AR is powerful because it seamlessly superimposes dynamic digital data onto our physical environment. It's not a separate screen you look at, like a laptop. It's an overlay that makes our physical surroundings interactive through our phone or glasses.
And the ultimate mass market example of this has to be Pokemon Go. The digital creatures, the Pokemon, they're not representations of physical animals. They're completely fabricated digital entities.
They are pure simulacra. They exist in your environment only via your screen. Yet, within the game's context, they possess an unmistakable reality. You hunt them, you capture them, they influence your physical movement to go to specific locations.
And they affect your social interactions. People meet up to raid gyms. It transforms our physically augmented environment into a digitally augmented one, where real and virtual elements not only coexist but actively interact. It changes how we perceive public spaces.
That statue in the park is no longer just a statue, it's a Pokestop. The digital layer has rewritten the meaning of the physical object.
Okay, so that's AR. But mixed reality, or MR, takes that blurring of the lines even further than just an overlay.
It does. MR aims to unify the physical and digital domains entirely. It spawns a novel, hybrid environment where entities of both worlds actively interact in real time.
So it's not just seeing a digital creature overlaid on your street.
It's being able to physically manipulate that creature or the digital constructs around you as if they were solid objects.
In this realm, the digital constructs transform into dynamic simulacra that gain a powerful semblance of reality. They lack a physical presence in the tactile sense, but they are interactive components that can be manipulated, reshaped, and moved, just like real, tangible objects.
The example in the sources, the hypothetical MR-based educational game Cosmic Explorer, illustrates this perfectly. Imagine you're wearing MR glasses in your living room,
Okay.
and suddenly your coffee table begins to glow. It becomes the sun. Your ottoman transforms into a swirling, gaseous Jupiter. You can reach out with your hand or a controller and pick up these holographic planets.
And rotate them or throw them into orbit around the coffee table sun.
Exactly. The interactivity is the key here. Because you are able to manipulate them, even though they aren't physically there, their digital existence is totally functional. They gain a semblance of reality in your perception because the physics, the sight, and the response are all immediate and convincing.
This is a massive paradigm shift. We're being propelled into an era where digital and physical realities are so intertwined that distinguishing them is, well, it's increasingly difficult and, frankly, increasingly irrelevant to the brain.
The brain just accepts the new input.
And we can't forget the absolutely crucial role of AI in achieving this hyperrealism. AI doesn't just display images, it creates intelligent, responsive virtual environments that convince our subconscious that they're real.
Right. If we return to that fictional VR game from the sources Worlds Beyond, AI plays the role of the reality administrator. It's used to create sophisticated non-player characters, or NPCs.
And these aren't the static, repetitive NPCs from older video games?
Not at all. These aren't just static scripts. They interact with players in complex, personalized, and often unpredictable ways. They remember your past actions, they have their own goals. That vastly enhances the realism and dynamism of the game world.
And crucially, the AI can analyze player behavior and dynamically adapt the environment itself.
Yes. The AI is constantly learning from your history in the game, your actions, your moral choices, your dialogue style, and it's adjusting the storyline, the challenges, or the NPC behavior based on that personalized profile.
So it provides an engaging experience tailored specifically to you.
It's hyperreality by customization.
The sophistication of the copies, the responsive NPCs, the holographic planets, the AI-driven adaptive worlds, that is what makes the collapse of digital dualism so complete. We're now fully immersed. And the primary proxy for that immersion is ourselves, or rather, our avatar.
Which brings us to part 3, the most sophisticated and perhaps the most dangerous simulacrum of all, the avatar.
Okay, let's really unpack this digital proxy. Avatars are far more than just little pictures of ourselves. They're sophisticated, often AI-powered simulacra that embody our identities, our behaviors, our emotions in these virtual settings.
And the sources note that they have their own existence in the digital realm, an existence that's independent of our physical location.
They serve as our digital proxy, blurring the line between the physical and the digital self. They interact, they navigate, and they influence our perception of ourselves and of others.
And they're constantly accumulating experience, reputation, and relational history in that digital space. They build a life.
Which is where we hit the philosophical inversion.
Yes.
This is the core idea we introduced at the start. The avatar may become more real than our physical self.
The argument is profound and a little terrifying. If our digital avatars can have experiences and relationships that feel just as real, if not more emotionally potent, than those we have in the physical world, then the avatar, through that accumulation of deeply felt experience, could be argued to become the reality and the physical self. It becomes the increasingly static, dull copy.
The physical body becomes merely the interface, the machine that's running the real program, which is the avatar's life, the source's state. The inversion of reality through AI, MR, and VR is a profound concept that is reshaping our understanding of what constitutes reality.
Let's make this concrete with the case study of Alice and her sorceress avatar, Astra, in Worlds Beyond. In the physical world, Alice might work a repetitive, unfulfilling job.
But she logs into the game every day, and Astra, her avatar, is this powerful, respected sorceress. She has agency, influence, a deep community of friends.
Right. Astra has abilities and characteristics Alice doesn't possess in the physical world. She can command respect, she can cast powerful spells, and she can solve impossible problems with her guild. Over time, Alice's virtual experiences haven't just shaped her gaming skills.
We've shaped her self-understanding, her definition of success and competence. The game is no longer just a game.
It has become a profoundly significant functional part of her reality.
And critically, this virtual existence offers something the physical one fundamentally limits: the fluidity of identity.
Exactly. Alice can change Astra's appearance, her abilities, even her core personality traits with the click of a button. She can experiment with different ways of being.
That fluidity contrasts so sharply with the relative fixedness of her physical identity, which is bound by biology, by her social reputation, physical constraints. Astra allows for self-expression and identity exploration that might be impossible, or just too risky, or simply unavailable in her physical world.
Her reality is no longer strictly limited by her body. It's now defined by her digital proxy.
And this isn't just a philosophical observation. This tracks with cognitive psychology, tying directly into how we achieve something called digital body ownership.
Right, which sounds like something out of a cyberpunk novel.
It does. Help us translate that academic term. Digital body ownership sounds like you're transferring your soul into the machine.
It's not quite that dramatic, but it's close. It's the cognitive process where the user transfers their entire cognitive self-representation onto the simulated body of the avatar. This process is absolutely crucial for achieving presence, that powerful feeling of genuinely being somewhere you physically are not.
And what makes up that cognitive self-representation? What are we transferring?
It's two components working together. First, you have the body schema. You can think of this as the functional internal GPS map of your body. It's the unconscious spatial properties and functional map of where your limbs are and how they move, without you thinking about it.
Okay, so that's the hardware map.
Exactly. And second, you have the body image, which is the conscious, affective, and emotional representation of your body. It's the software. It's influenced by your self-esteem, social perceptions, and all your conscious experiences.
So when we inhabit an avatar, we are mentally projecting both the functional map of our body and all the emotional and social baggage we carry onto that virtual vessel.
That's right. And the feeling of being in the virtual world is generated by the fidelity between those two things and what you're seeing and controlling on screen.
And the success of this embodiment, it's often heightened when the avatar looks like us, right?
Yes, the research is pretty clear on that. Self-resembling avatars are particularly conducive to strong embodiment because recognizing yourself produces a strong consistency between your internal cognitive representation and the digitally simulated body. You feel in it. It's you.
But the connection goes even further than just feeling present. It actually influences our behavior back in the physical world.
Yeah.
This is the powerful Proteus effect.
The Proteus effect is a landmark finding in this field. It shows that people carry the characteristics and actions of their avatars into their physical life.
How does that work?
If you inhabit a tall, powerful, attractive avatar in a virtual world, you tend to display higher confidence in negotiations or social interactions in the real world immediately after you log off.
The avatar is essentially running a behavioral simulation for you.
Right.
And your mind adopts the successful traits and behaviors that were generated in that virtual space.
Precisely. Users may consciously or unconsciously seek to transform what they admire about their virtual self, that powerful, confident Astra, into real-world behavior. Maybe that's exercising more, or adopting different clothing, or just speaking with more assertiveness at work.
The simulated experience is actively driving real-world identity formation and behavior modification.
And this blurring of self and simulacrum can lead to some really complex issues, particularly when deep emotional bonds are formed virtually. We start looking at identity fragmentation and even parallels with dissociative processes in psychology.
Dissociative processes. That sounds serious.
Well, avatar practices, especially in deeply immersive environments like Second Life or big MMORPGs, can parallel psychological dissociative processes, specifically the concept of subpersonalities. Psychologically, dissociation, that feeling of seeing yourself from outside your body or passively enduring a situation, is often an adaptive reaction to trauma. The patterns we see in intense gaming share this aspect of generating the impression of being elsewhere or being other.
So the key question, when a player forms a deep virtual relationship through their avatar, say, if Astra falls in love with another NPC or another player's avatar, the question is, who is experiencing these authentic feelings?
And the research on online relationships in these deep platforms is fascinating. It shows the feelings are genuinely perceived as authentic by the operator, by Alice, even if they are directed at a fictional character or proxy avatar.
The avatar is the conduit, but the feelings are felt by the person behind the screen.
Which raises this paradoxical question of identity ownership. The players may claim, oh, I'm only pretending to be in love. It's just a fictional romantic involvement. But the emotions experienced are often real enough to lead to real-life consequences.
Such as emotional infidelity with a real-life partner. The simulated world is breaking the physical world's bonds.
The emotional reality of the virtual relationship overwhelms the physical reality of the commitment. The avatar's relationship is a simulacrum of intimacy, but the pain or joy it causes is fully 100% real.
This pressure to achieve a hyper-real, idealized version of the self, whether it's through a powerful avatar or just a meticulously filtered photo, is now leading directly to psychological harm in the physical world.
Yes, which pivots us perfectly to part 4. We have to discuss this tension between striving for perfection and choosing authenticity.
Social media places us in this persistent, unavoidable conflict. It's this constant push to present an idealized, self-exaggerated, edited, curated, versus the basic human desire to maintain an authentic self-view.
The self becomes an identity to be meticulously curated. It becomes a consumable brand, designed for likes and validation.
We spend so much energy pursuing that digital ideal. So why should we choose the messy, complex path of authenticity over the seemingly rewarding path of idealization? What does the data say we actually gain?
The data is decisively in favor of authenticity. It's not even close. Researchers developed a really clever measure they called quantified authenticity to track this gap.
How do they quantify something as slippery as authenticity?
They compared a user's self-reported personality, who they say they are, to a computer-modeled personality based on their observable digital traces. Things like their Facebook likes, their status updates, their interaction patterns.
So they are using the user's actual digital footprint to model who they truly are, behaviorally,
Yeah.
and then measuring the distance between that digital truth and the user's aspirational self-view. That's a powerful comparison.
It is. And the findings, derived from analyzing thousands of Facebook users, showed a significant positive correlation. Individuals who were more authentic in their self-expression, meaning their self-view was closer to their computer-modeled, actual personality, reported significantly greater life satisfaction.
Okay, but was this finding only true for people who happen to be, naturally attractive or successful? Does authenticity only pay off if you have traits society already values?
And that's the critical question. The answer is no. The benefit appeared consistent across all different personality profiles. This proves that all individuals, regardless of their specific traits, stand to benefit psychologically from simply being authentic.
The payoff is in the coherence of the self, not the content of the self.
Beautifully put. And to prove causality, they went a step further with an experimental study, which is very rare in this area of psychology.
What did they do?
They conducted a longitudinal experiment. They prompted participants to post either authentically using words like real or true, or in a self-idealized way using words like ideal, popular, or pleasing to others for a full week.
And the results?
The results showed a clear causal relationship. The act of posting authentically was linked to significantly higher positive affect and mood within participants.
Choosing truth over polish actively improves your immediate emotional state. That is extremely useful knowledge. But what about the danger of choosing the opposite path, the path of continuous self-enhancement?
This is the core villain in action. The research specifically found that normative self-enhancement, that is, inflating one's traits relative to those digital traces, was detrimental to subjective well-being.
So it's the gap.
It is the gap between the real self and the projected perfection that causes the stress, the anxiety, and the psychological damage. The bigger the gap between the copy and the original, the worse you feel.
And the psychological costs generated by this constant pressure toward digital perfection. They're escalating dramatically. We see a clear cascade of negative outcomes.
First, a massive decline in negative body image and self-esteem. People feel acutely insecure and dissatisfied with how they look naturally. They come to believe they are only presentable when enhanced by filters, flawless lighting, or digital editing.
They create a profound distance from their authentic, natural self.
And that insecurity creates a fear of real-world judgment.
It translates into crippling appearance and social anxiety. People now spend huge amounts of time editing photos before daring to share them. There is a deep-seated fear of revealing the authentic self because the ideal is so far removed from the physical reality.
And this also fuels highly judgmental, unrealistic standards for others because the digital environment trains us to see filtered perfection as the new normal.
And the most concerning outcome, the one that truly illustrates the hyper-real copy replacing the original, is the phenomenon identified by medical professionals as filter dysmorphia.
Filter dysmorphia is a rapidly growing trend. Individuals are presenting to plastic surgeons and dermatologists seeking cosmetic surgeries to replicate the unrealistic, idealized, filtered appearance of their digital self.
The simulacrum has become the blueprint for the body.
This is truly the inversion complete. The physical body is being forced to conform to the digital representation, not the other way around.
What specific procedures are people requesting? What does that look like?
They often request a narrowed, sculpted nose, far smaller than their natural bone structure would allow, fuller lips, dramatically smoother, poreless skin, or larger cat-like eyes. And crucially, they often bring in photos of themselves, but they're filtered photos, not unedited originals.
The request isn't to look better, it's to look like the filter.
Exactly. They are striving to turn the Stage 5 simulacrum into their new Stage I reality. This sets a deeply concerning, completely unrealistic bar for beauty standards based on impossible digital metrics.
The hyperreality has moved from simply shaping our experiences to actively demanding the surgical modification of our physical bodies. This is a destructive cycle. And it's not just driven by individual insecurity, is it? It's systematically fueled by the broader machinery of late capitalism and algorithmic control.
Which connects us right back to Baudrillard's original economic critique.
Exactly. Late capitalism, especially operating through digital platforms, thrives by reducing the complex depth of reality itself to commodified consumable symbols.
And algorithms, which now have primacy over media and individuals, play a critical role here. They modulate our feeling, our thinking, and our acting.
So how does an algorithm simplify reality into a consumable commodity?
Well, it simplifies complex, multifaceted, nuanced social needs. like the desire for community, for knowledge, or for acceptance, into streamlined, automated procedures. Procedures governed by data metrics that can be immediately satisfied by consumption.
So a deep desire for human connection becomes a like button.
A need for intellectual curiosity becomes a curated, endless stream of niche content designed to keep you scrolling.
So algorithms like those used for targeted ads or content platforms like YouTube or TikTok, they are trained to anticipate and rationalize our deepest desires in terms of utility and instant satisfaction. And this is all manipulated by commercial interests.
Exactly. The goal is constant consumption and perpetual economic growth. By reducing all things, including your personal identity, your social interactions, your taste in music to data points, they become commodities in a hyper-real marketplace.
Spotify doesn't care if you truly appreciate the complex history of a genre.
It just cares if it can simplify your taste into 3 keywords it can sell to advertisers. The algorithm reinforces your existing beliefs, creating a fragmented, self-focused echo chamber, a condition Baudrillard called social herding.
And this curated, fragmented digital environment, it creates a kind of absurdity, doesn't it? It reminds me of the history of art movements that reacted to societal absurdity.
The sources draw a powerful parallel between the jarring, illogical nature of quick internet use, the immediate transitions between topics, the cyclical miscommunication, the commodification of everything, and the historical art movements of Dada and Neo-Dada.
Those movements emerged after World War I as a reaction to societal collapse, and they used fragmentation and collage to mirror the world's illogic.
And when you slow down and analyze typical online discourse, it often reveals a daddiest absurdity. It's the immediate, almost nonsensical miscommunication that feels frustratingly familiar to anyone who's been in an online argument. Nuance is lost in the need for an immediate reductive response.
There's that example from the sources, the cyclical dialogue about the cost of breakfast.
Yes, where a clarification of price is mistaken for amount. The logic lore is maddening and feels exactly like dealing with a poorly designed AI customer service bot or getting into a pointless argument online. It's constant misinterpretation.
And this fragmentation of hyper-reality, it leads to a critical erosion of detail. I love the analogy used in the source. It's like running a high-fidelity computer game on low graphical settings. We call it potato mode.
The simulated world is degrading. It's becoming less meaningful as the sheer volume of data increases. One source describes characters in a story encountering objects, a camera, and a gun, where the details are just missing or contradictory. The camera has a solid metal viewing lens that couldn't possibly transmit an image. The gun doesn't have a trigger, but only a boxy shape where the trigger should be.
So the details necessary for reality, the function, the complexity, they're being replaced by placeholders.
Yeah.
By symbols that look like the real thing but lack the underlying logic.
And the abundance of these fragmented experiences dilutes their overall impact. When the real world is reduced to these shallow symbols and images, our ability to find coherence, depth, and meaning is lost. The fidelity of reality is being compromised by the endless pressure for speed and consumption.
So if we are trapped in this immaterial, commodified, fragmented world, what saves us? What is the necessary counterbalance?
Material anchors. We need material anchors. The ubiquitous immateriality of the digital world where size, place, and even time are fluid and malleable. It creates a constant cognitive difficulty for our brains.
Because our brains are evolved to process physical, tangible space.
Right. We are designed to live in the physical, but we spend hours operating in the non-physical. And there's a cognitive cost to that.
What is that cost?
Research suggests that the physical solidity of a printed text, for instance, aids memory and processing. It offers a spatial and tangible reference point. You know where you are in the book by the weight and feel of the pages. Digital text, conversely, lacks this physical anchor,
which can result in changes in memory capacity and difficulty in deep cognitive processing. We lose the feel of the information.
And that explains the enduring appeal of reading physical books or listening to vinyl records or using old film cameras. It's a necessary sensory input that grounds us.
It's about embodiment and tangibility.
These are the sources of sensorial experience that provide a more cohesive and firm understanding of reality. An understanding through the experience of limits, of boundaries, and the delineations that define real entities. Over-digitized humans are in urgent need of these physical, material anchors to prevent dissociation.
And we are witnessing a genuine societal reaction to this over-digitization, especially among younger generations who have never known a world without it.
Absolutely. The sources highlight a conscious or unconscious preference for the tangible, the old, the used, or the imperfect. We see this in the massive resurgence of interest in vintage clothes and old film photography.
And manual activities, cooking, baking, pottery, or deep immersion in nature through hiking or wilderness skills.
These activities aren't just hobbies designed for aesthetic posts on Instagram, though they often end up there. They are, in a deeper sense, acts of philosophical resistance against the hyperreal.
They are. These old objects and activities are cherished precisely because they're imperfect. They're perceived as memory carriers. They are material proof of reality.
They show wear, they show decay, they show the passage of time. And that acts as a powerful counterbalance to the artificial, immutable, and polished digital perfection we are constantly fed. They are necessary reminders of human mortality and decay, resisting the hyperreal demand for endless, polished, artificial life.
Okay, so let's synthesize our journey here. We started with Baudrillard's framework. We traced the technological engine that's dissolving the barrier between real and virtual. And then we mapped the very real psychological toll of things like filter dysmorphia. Now we've identified the solution in material connection. What is the overall mandate for the listener?
I think the synthesis is clear. The virtual world, mediated by AI, AR, and VR, is no longer separate. Digital dualism has ended. The hyperreal condition is now our environment. It's the water we swim in.
But this blending comes with profound ethical and psychological risks.
The risk of disconnecting from the depth and richness of genuine human experiences in favor of artificial consumable pleasures and instant gratification.
And the sources warn that this risk is not just individual, the erosion of genuine human connections and the potential for manipulation. It echoes Baudrillard's fundamental concerns about the loss of authenticity and the objectification inherent in contemporary society.
We've established that knowledge is important, but behavioral change is essential. And the encouraging news, based on the research we reviewed in depth, is that maintaining psychological well-being in this hyperreal world is not unattainable.
Authenticity is a clear, powerful choice within our immediate control.
It is, because authentic self-expression correlates positively with higher life satisfaction. And posting or acting authentically, even for a short time, can causally improve your immediate mood and positive affect. It's a guaranteed psychological payoff.
So choosing authentic self-expression, narrowing that gap between the ideal self and the real self, is a manageable and effective way to improve well-being, regardless of your specific personality.
We have to resist the seductive lure of digital escapism, which only broadens the gap, and actively preserve genuine human connections and material experiences.
To navigate the hyperreal, we must critically reflect on the transformative power of these technologies and question the role they play in shaping our lives. By embracing a nuanced understanding of the simulacrum, we can engage with these tools mindfully and ethically, rather than being passively consumed by them.
And we have to end on the ultimate philosophical dilemma this topic raises, the thought experiment of Robert Nozick's experience machine.
Okay, remind us of that one.
Imagine a device that could provide you with any desired experience, completely indistinguishable from reality. Perfect happiness, pleasure, and fulfillment without any of the negative aspects of life. You just float in a tank and live a perfect dream.
Nozick argued that if pleasure were the sole indicator of a good life, we should all plug in permanently. But he contended that most people would instinctively choose not to enter the machine.
Because we value genuine connection, we value vulnerability, and we value the difficult complexity of authentic reality.
Yet, we are faced with the seductive lure of these virtual pleasure paradises, this hyper-real environment, every single day through our devices and our idealized avatars.
So here's the final question. If we collectively keep prioritizing the instant gratification and the idealized, polished image of the digital world, if the longing for easy, frictionless transcendence continues to grow, will we eventually reach a tipping point?
Will this slow, collective choice to refine the simulacrum eventually turn into a total conscious abandonment of the messy, difficult, but fundamentally genuine nature of embodied reality?
That is the question we are left to grapple with. And the answer lies in the choices we make today.